All right, welcome back, Sunlight Alliance. Today we're doing another chapter discussion. This week I brought on Edenz Blue. He is awesome. Everybody should check out his channel. How you doing, Edenz?
Yo, thanks for having me, bro. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. That was a fucking banger chapter, and we got some awesome stuff to talk about today. I kind of want to spin your thoughts on certain topics and see where your mind's at. First of all, I was curious, the first thing we saw in the chapter was Momonosuke and Yamato kind of still talking about what Momonosuke read in Oden's journal, and he seems to be pretty iffy about opening Wano's borders. He kind of seems like he wants to keep them closed, but he's calling himself a coward because of it. Why do you think Momonosuke wants to keep Wano's borders closed, and why do you think they were closed to begin with?
All right, so where do I start, right? So I definitely think that in terms of the topic of Momonosuke, I think he's of the mindset of he's just kind of afraid to open the borders because it's kind of that whole saying, a fear of the unknown. He doesn't really understand why Wano was closed to begin with and the consequences of what will come should he open the borders, right? And I think this all ties into Momonosuke's entire arc about growing out of the shadow of Oden and becoming his own person, because we've seen, at least in Wano alone, where he's been this kid who has been constantly reminded of all of these people aren't following him for who he is. They're following him because they only see Oden when they look at Momonosuke, and he feels like he has the entire world on his shoulders to live up to his father's legacy. And the way I interpret this is that he's just so afraid to make the wrong decision and to have all of that fall flat on his face and end up, the way I perceive it, it looks like he's afraid to have everything that his father did to all be for nothing if he makes the wrong decision. And now he has this inner conflict where should he just keep things the way they are right now in order to prevent anything from happening at all?
Yeah, and I think that's a great point.
I think when it all wraps up, Wano will be open, of course, but right now we see that inner conflict he's dealing with right now.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think something that could have happened is, because Oden learned everything there is to know, right? So something that could have happened is he learned something about the ancient history that, he might have written down in his journal, and maybe Momonosuke read that because, the super crazy secrets aren't in there, right? About Laugh Tale and all of that stuff. But there could have been something Wano history related to where Wano closed its borders, for a specific reason to protect Wano from, like you said, something like the unknown, or maybe something dangerous that was a danger at a certain time but isn't a danger now. And Momonosuke is kind of having this inner debate with himself, is it safe at this moment in time to open Wano's borders? Maybe he doesn't know what that danger was, or maybe he does know what that danger was from the journal. But he's is this an issue now? Am I allowed to do this? Am I going to be a coward and keep the? That's something I actually thought was actually interesting. It's why would he consider himself a coward by keeping the borders closed? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So during the Oden flashback, the only thing we know that Oden himself straight up says is when during the Hour of Legends is that Wano closes borders to protect itself from a great external power. If that's how it was, I can't remember the dialogue word for word, but it was a great external power. And exactly. I think I did a video 6 months ago. Honestly, probably one of my more recent videos since I haven't posted in a minute. But I think it was a video talking about King's race and all that. And I think I mentioned that I think the great external power was what we know to be the great cleansing. I think it was the very first great cleansing.
Mm-hmm. And Wano kind of saved themselves from that.
Right.
When Nekomamushi and Dogstorm wash up on the island for the first time, most of the residents of Wano have the minds oh, I've never seen this before. This is fear of the unknown. I'm just kind of trying to draw the parallel, you know what I mean? I don't know. I feel like that kind of has to do a lot with what's going on in Momo's head. But to go to the next topic, this is something that I've seen Brago mention frequently, almost in every single video. What is going on with Denjiro? Where is Denjiro? I don't think we've seen him in 10, 15 chapters.
Oh man, right? Denjiro. Okay. So I'm kind of in the ballpark with a lot of people, right? Who were thinking for the longest that next time we saw Dendro, it will be something involving like Hiyori, because that's the whole plot line we got with those two, like at the start of Wano. And that still might be the case, but after this chapter, I'm also wondering that line that Raizo said, right, when he came across Jinbei and said, "Yo, the preparations are almost complete." And when he said that, I'm like, preparations for what exactly?
Exactly. That was
and
actually
now I'm wondering.
that was one of the topics for the discussion. Yeah, good. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, because I'm like, okay, well, we haven't seen Dendro in like, it feels like 30 chapters, right?
Do you think?
So I'm wondering, it had to do with him.
When they, after their first battle with Kaido, and they were, severely wounded and all in that one room where Hiyori came in and healed them, do you think that there was a conversation during that time to kind of create a plan or like whatever preparations he was talking about? Because Hiyori and Dendro did have an interaction, it looks like, if Hiyori was there, right?
Right. Okay, so the way that I interpreted that was Hiyori got out of the room before any of them woke up. And, I guess we could think that maybe Dendro was the only one to come to prior to all of them and had a conversation and is just keeping it secret right now. Mm-hmm. We could go along that lines and think that way. But like how I'm thinking about it is like, they all woke up after Hiyori did what she did and got out of there. And, maybe there was still a conversation between the group, like Dendro and Raizo and the others about, all right, here's what we need to do. Dendro, Raizo, you guys go do this. The rest of us are gonna go help Luffy and the others because there's still a lot of fighting to be done. And we can make the argument too that conversation did go down because after the Scabbards got up and were ready to move, I don't think we saw them again until they ran into Orochi. So there's a time frame you can fit in there to think like maybe they did plan something out.
So, like, speaking on that now, like, Dendro, what is he up to? Is he going to be kind of contributing to those preparations? Because now after you brought up Hiyori, I think it can go one of two ways. One, Dendro is doing something behind the scenes that has to do with the preparations that Raizo was talking about. Or two, Dendro is going to end up saving Hiyori from Onigashima, which is falling apart after Hiyori finishes off Orochi, which is another topic I wanted to bring up later. But what do you think? Like, do you think those two possibilities is kind of what's most likely to happen?
As of right now, yes, because it's like, who is Dendro gonna fight, right? All the fights are wrapped up. The only thing that I was thinking of is, okay, maybe Dendro is doing something that involves the complete destruction of Onigashima because they want to like make sure that they wipe out any remnants of Kaido that could pose a threat to Wano. That like aside from Orochi, that's the only thing that comes to mind because they basically treated Orochi like he wasn't worth their time when they ran into him the first time. Mm-hmm. Dendro included because he was there. So I'm wondering like whatever the preparations are, like my headcanon tells me it is like the complete destruction of Onigashima. Like they want to like wipe out everything related to Kaido, the Beast Pirates and all that in one go.
Speaking of Orochi, like you said, when they saw Orochi again, they were just like, fuck this guy. We don't have time to deal with you. Chops, all of his heads off and just brushes by him. And currently Orochi is being confronted by Hiyori, who just revealed her identity to him. Do you think that Hiyori is going to be the one to kill Orochi? Or do you think that Orochi, because I feel like there's three possibilities here. Like either Hiyori kills Orochi, Orochi's done. Or Hiyori kills Orochi, Orochi still has another life, Momonosuke kills Orochi after, everybody's escaped Onigashima. Or Orochi, or Hiyori leaves Orochi in the burning Onigashima and, it gets destroyed. And maybe after that, Momonosuke comes along and kills Orochi off. What do you think is going to happen to Orochi? Like, what's most likely?
All right. Man, yeah, that's tough, right? So
or maybe like,
what
do you want to happen? Like, what would your preference out of those options?
All right, so there is that whole folktale about like a Yamato no Orochi being beheaded by like a person wielding like the Amino Habakiri sword.
Yep.
If I'm recalling that correctly. The most logical answer would say, okay, it'll be Momonosuke. He has the Amino Habakiri sword. The only reason exactly, and the only reason I'm too hesitant on to say like Momonosuke specifically is because we know Oda doesn't do like the whole reference to like mythology, like one for one, like make an exact copy of it. He likes to like sprinkle it amongst different characters and all that stuff. Like for instance, Tama, right? She's also like a part of the whole Momotaro theory, while at the same time you have Momonosuke here.
I think that makes this event so hard to predict, like the situation.
Right. I'm all for Hiyori getting the job done, but my question is, does she have Ame no Habakiri on her? Like that's the question, right? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
does Tinguyama still have that sword? Is it just still chilling on Wano? Like that sword has to be important in some way for this arc, and I just don't see why it wouldn't be after like, you know, that panel with it being right next to Enma. Enma's gotten a lot of shine right now. I feel like Ame no Habakiri has to hold some importance. So right now, like my headcanon tells me that Hiyori has it on her. Maybe we're gonna find out Denjiro has it. Maybe they put it at a specific location on Onigashima, or like stashed away or something. Like one of those two has it, and whichever one of them has it, I think is what's gonna tie into the whole thing with Orochi.
Do we know if Momonosuke brought Ame no Habakiri with him when he went out to the battle, or was it left with Hiyori?
So it was left with Tinguyama because he offered it to Momonosuke when he gave Zoro Enma. Mm-hmm. And if I'm remembering correctly, Momonosuke said that he's not ready for it.
So if Tinguyama has the blade, then it's very possible that, you know, Hiyori could have had it, or could have grabbed it before coming to Onigashima.
Right, exactly. Because that was 5 days ago when Zoro received Enma and Momonosuke said he's not ready to receive his sword yet. That was 5 days ago. So there's plenty of time in between all that to say Hiyori got it from Tinguyama or she stole it, similar to how like Luffy stole the Nidai Kitetsu earlier in Wano. That's just what my headcanon tells me. Like right now, Hiyori has a sword on her, so she's gonna use it on Orochi.
That made me think of a couple other things. The first thing I thought about, like, I kind of want to retract a statement because, you know, right now, what Hiyori did was pierce Orochi with a nail, like a sea stone nail that prevents him from transforming. So, like, you would assume that if that's the case, he doesn't have any extra lives available to him, right? He can't regenerate if his head gets cut off, and he can't use his devil fruit power. Like, I would assume so, right? So,
right.
If that's the case, then if Hiyori finishes off Orochi here, he would be dead. And the other thing that I was thinking of after you mentioned you thinking that Hiyori could have Ame no Habakiri, which I also think is extremely likely, then it would be perfect because you have the symbolism of Odin's sword killing off Orochi, Hiyori killing off Orochi, and the setup with the nail so that Orochi can't use his powers again to come back to life. I think all those kind of fit together pretty well. But yeah, there we go. That's my new headcanon.
You're right. No. So like you're definitely right about that. Especially because so we know Kaido got the first head, right? And the next time we see like the Scabbards encounter Orochi, like Fukurokuju has that one quick line saying that, yes, sir. I remember again. I'm like remembering this from like verbatim, not just kind of paraphrasing here. But like he said something along the lines of like, sir, they're not aware that you already have one head cut off. So he was like already kind of implying that like, yeah, like you only get 8. You only get 8 tries at this.
Yeah.
And you know, with Hiyori doing the whole thing with the sea stone nail, canceling out the devil fruit powers, it's like, all right, you're officially like down to one chance now. It's just like, so like logic tells me most likely right now it might be Hiyori. It's just given how important Orochi has been to this arc in terms of just his role as a villain, I just have a hard time believing that he gets killed and no one is around to see this happen.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It kind of has to be a spectacle, you think, like people need to see him be brought down to like justice type of thing.
Right. Right. And maybe not like a whole bunch of people, maybe not like an execution trial for all the people of Wano, just like a very specific characters like Momonosuke himself, maybe like Kinemon or Denjiro, like Hiyori definitely. I feel like the main two is Momonosuke and Hiyori.
Do you think Hiyori will capture Orochi and bring him to the like a gathering?
I think something's gonna happen to where one of those scenarios where like somebody just monologues for too long, and instead of just doing the job, it all fails. Right now, that's kind of the vibe I'm getting right now with Hiyori playing the music. She's monologuing about what she did to Orochi instead of just getting the job done. So I feel like something's not about to go her way. Like, I don't know, maybe some random beast pirate fodder shows up and stops her from what she's doing, and they free Orochi. I don't know. I'm just spitballing ideas here. Right?
Yeah. So another idea I just thought of is like, what if this is the last time we see the Hiyori and Orochi interaction, and the next time we see the two of them, Hiyori is bringing a captive Orochi to Momonosuke. This is after the battle, and gives Momonosuke the sword, which we suspect that Hiyori has, and Momonosuke finishes the job, and they'll be in front of people too. That's just another idea.
I like that. I know. I really do like that idea. I guess it's just me thinking like, is Hiyori capable of restraining Orochi even when he's in human form? Right. I'm just wondering, is she capable of that? Yeah,
because we don't. Well, at least we haven't been shown that Hiyori has any sort of like physical feats. Well, on the topic of the scabbards, Izo, it looks like to be pretty down bad this last chapter. I think, did Izo got pierced by the CP0 member while shooting him and defeating him. So is Izo dead, or do you think any of the other scabbards are dead at all? Or do you think that all of them are still going to be alive at the end of the raid?
All right. Oh, man.
Because this is a huge topic in the community. Like, a lot of people have different opinions on this.
So, all right. So here's been my stance, right? So personally, especially at this point, I don't think anybody is going to die, as much as people don't like that. And how I had perceived it is that, okay, let's go with a scenario, right, that we do get some deaths, right? Like some of the scabbards go out. If I had to make a list, it would be Ashura Doji. I thought it was going to be one of the Mink leaders at this point, but clearly not. It looks like right now all we have for certain is Ashura Doji, maybe Denjiro. Like, those are the top two in my head right now if anybody were to go out. And it's because like those are the two. I was thinking Kawamatsu, but at this point he's kind of rolled out. But definitely Ashura Doji and Denjiro, because we know like they're two of like the three that were on Wano for the entire 20 years. They saw the complete downfall of the country, So I think it would just be like very interesting to see like this be their final showing, where they go out, bring the country after two decades of just seeing it go to complete shit.
I always thought Kinemon was gonna die. Like I had that like gut feeling forever. Right since the raid started, I was like, Kinemon is going to, if nobody else dies, Kinemon is gonna die this raid. And it didn't happen. Like the dude just keeps getting back up. I'm so surprised by that.
Right. So for me, I have been of the idea that if any of the scabbards were to die, I don't think it comes until after everything is finished. So when they know for a fact that they won, that Wano, that the battle is over, Wano is free again.
Yeah.
I don't think, I was never of the idea that any of them die while the battle is still going on and they die unaware of the results.
Yeah, so they live to see the dawn of Wano, kind of, right?
Exactly. And it's like, maybe like, would that be like their last moment, and like they die happy knowing that like we did it, we won.
Yeah.
And do I think Izo is gonna be done? Probably not. We see X Drake is there. People have been running around this entire island, finding bodies on the ground, getting them up. Like we just saw that with Raizo and Jinbei. I think Izo is still pretty safe right now, but we'll find out, because it seems to be like all of the older guys who kind of didn't jump through time that are the ones going down.
Yeah,
like I said, Izo, Ashura Doji, maybe Denjiro with whatever he's doing.
Wano's just going crazy right now. But to get to the next topic, we're kind of switching gears a little bit here, flipping over to Kaido, because that was also a pretty big part of this chapter. We get, I think we've seen Kaido in the past before, but the very first, I think, Kaido-centric flashback, and it was very short, but we got to see a little bit, Big Mom, very young, introducing herself to Kaido. And the question that comes to my mind is, how did Kaido meet Rocks, and where did he come from? because it looks like Rox is recruiting Kaido, or Kaido is working with Rox to do something. So where do you think Kaido came from? How do you think he met Rox?
All right. Oh man. So this is the one, right? So all right. So for the longest, right, the community were under the impression that the entire Rox Pirates formed like all at once on the Beehive Island.
Mm-hmm. The Davy Bag games and all that to get the strongest members.
Right. And the thing is like, that's what I'm thinking. It is. That's what it seems to be. But we don't know entirely like the time frame of when that happened. We only know God Valley. We don't know how long they had been running around prior to God Valley. But given the context of this recent chapter, I believe Big Mom said Kaido was what, like 15?
Yeah, and I think he was like 21 or something during God's Valley, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we know that at the bare minimum now they've been a crew for 6 years doing who knows what, and it makes me wonder if like, okay, I think I discussed this with Threevil. I keep saying Threevil, Jesus Christ, Evil. I discussed this with Evil and some of the other guys the other day about this.
Shout out to Decipher Pol.
Yeah, shout out to Decipher Pol.
Shout out to the gang.
I was saying, yes sir. I was saying, I think that when Sengoku was giving his explanation on the forming of the Rox crew, I think that might have been more so for like people like Whitebeard, Kaido, maybe Shiki, but the Rox Pirates might have already been a thing even prior to that, but a much smaller crew. Like with for instance, like, obviously Rox is the captain, and Big Mom might have been like his first mate, because given this chapter, she implies that she knew Rox for quite some time now prior to this, when she was telling Kaido like, oh yeah, like you can't trust Rox, he's a good for nothing, trust me, I'll be like your big sister, yada yada. So implying that like she already has some established familiarity with Rox already, implying that like they've sailed the seas together at some point prior to when they got Whitebeard, Shiki, Silver Axe, Wang Ji, and all these other guys and stuff like that. I'm so
excited for the flashback. Oh my god, it's gonna be so
cool.
My
god. Nah, bro. This has probably been like the most built up flashback at this point in the story.
We're gonna see Shiki. Man, we're gonna see Shiki again. That's crazy.
Man, look, everybody's talking about young Kaido and Shiki. I'm trying to see Wang Ji.
You're trying to see Wang Ji. Hell yeah. So, to another topic, Luffy had a new move in this chapter. I believe it was the 9-headed snake, right? Hydra. What did you think of the move? Did it blow your mind? Did it, was the paneling awesome, or did you kind of find it underwhelming? What are your thoughts on it?
I definitely did love it. Because like first you have that panel with Kaido like crying, and then that menacing looking tiny panel with Luffy. Like I don't know what that was supposed to be, but like he just looks like a demon in that moment. He was
turning Super Saiyan or some shit. Like he was about to transform.
Bro, he looks like a demon. I don't know what's going on right there.
Dude, all the Straw Hats look like demons. What is up with that? Like it's like almost half of the Straw Hats have demon epithets now. King of Hell, Robin being the demon child, right? Like it's crazy.
Yeah, and it's ironic because they're fighting on Onigashima, which is basically called like the den of demons, and fighting Onis. So like that, that's crazy. Maybe that was intentional. Like now that we're talking about it,
yeah,
like, I didn't think about it like that. But so like I love the panel. I love the attack. I'm wondering if like maybe it's some kind of reference from like Magellan, maybe, since that was like the closest thing Hydra related we had in the series prior to like Orochi, I guess. But no, I do love it. It's a new move from Snake Man that we haven't seen. It's basically kind of like I would assume it's like a Jet Gatling, but in Snake Man form.
Yeah.
And something else that's just really interesting about it is the dialogue after, right, where Luffy says something along the lines of like, I'm giving like Gear 4 like one last try, if like that's how accurate the translations are, right? If it's saying like kind of implying that like, yeah, this is like the last thing I'm gonna do with Gear 4 before something bigger comes.
Yeah, I feel like, either he's saying this is the last stretch of energy that I feel like I have within me, and he's gonna have to pull something out of his ass in order to win the fight if this doesn't work. You know what I mean? Or he actually has something else in mind that he's gonna use afterwards. Because I feel like either way, we're getting something new, right? Whether it's whether it's Gear 5th, whether it's Awakening, whether it's both. This has been a huge topic of discussion ever since Kaido and Luffy started fighting, and even before. And, you know, there's a million theories about it. I've thrown a few out there myself on my channel. What are some of your theories? What do you think's going to happen?
Okay, so I'm trying to like get all the material for a video for it to probably drop this week, hopefully. But so it's like at this point, I was on the idea of Gear 5th for a while, and it still might be. But now, like, given the events with Kid and Law revealing Awakening, following that trend, I'm assuming, like, will Luffy reveal to have Awakening now at this point? Because I know a lot of people like the idea of it being with Blackbeard, but given the context of what's all happening right now, looks like we're going to be getting Awakening during this fight. And, you know, the question is that a lot of people always wonder is, will Gear 5th be Awakening? Because if it is, then that means it'd have to be, like, infused with Haki or something, right?
Yeah.
So, man, I see, bro, that's the thing. It's like, all right, so I'm leaning towards Gear 5th or Awakening, obviously. And the only thing we had with Gear 5th was Oda mentioning something in like an SBS, where he kind of like vaguely like didn't deny it, but didn't confirm it either. And you know, so like right now, yeah, if you were to tell me, I would say Awakening, because it looks like that's where it's about to go. And it looks like Luffy himself is aware of that.
I agree, and the reason why too is I think that's great that you brought up the fact that, you know, Oda kind of hinting at Gear 5th, because, you know, what Oda did is he hinted at Gear 5th, but he didn't hint at when Gear 5th would come, right? But we do have references in this arc and during the raid on Onigashima that Luffy is awakening, and that's straight from the Gorosei. You know, they mention that this devil fruit, this legendary devil fruit with a different name, now we know is, you know, most likely Luffy's fruit, right? Because they want to eliminate him all of a sudden, is awakening. Like, this legendary devil fruit is awakening. So I agree with you completely. I think we're going to see some revelations in terms of Luffy's devil fruit. We're going to get some more lore, and it's going to be fucking awesome.
Yeah. So many questions. So many questions. I would say too, real quick to add to that too, is like, for all we know, Luffy is already aware that he can do this, because I brought up in a discussion, forgot who it was a while back, that if you pay attention to all of Luffy's like transformations or new abilities in the story, he never figures them out on the spot. He's already aware of them, and it's the audience who finds out on the spot. Like, you know, you go back and find out Gear 2nd and Gear 3rd. Luffy figured that stuff out. We were the ones that were caught off guard. You go back and see the first reveal of Gear 4th. Luffy already knew he could do this. We were the ones caught off guard. And so following that trend, I think Oda is setting up to do that same thing with like Awakening or Gear 5th, whatever is coming.
How many more chapters do you think will be on Onigashima? And then after that, Wano, like in general, where in the ballpark, where do you think? Because I'm pretty sure I asked Eddie the same question, Evil. And I'm just curious what your thoughts on it are as well.
Man, I go back and forth on this every day. One day I'm saying like 20 chapters, another day I'm saying 30. But if I were to take a guess right now, I would say the safe expectation is we have like 20 chapters, roughly speaking.
Wano or Onigashima?
Okay. So if we're talking specifically Onigashima, I would give it like maybe 12 chapters minimum.
I was gonna say like at least 10 chapters for Onigashima.
Yeah. 10 to 12 chapters minimum.
Because we got the escape still. Yeah, like we got the escape that still needs to happen. We got the Kaido fight that still needs to happen. We got the Kaido flashback that still needs to happen. And I don't think the Kaido flashback will be like as long as Oden's flashback, right? But it's gonna be, you know, it's gonna be probably 4 or 5 chapters at least. Right.
Because I'm expecting it to be, you know, minimum 2 chapters, since like that's about what Big Mom was. And for Kaido, you know, it has the potential to be even longer, because Kaido has been getting like sprinkled in flashbacks throughout the entirety of Wano. Like Kaido, we got sprinkled into Oden's flashback, got put in Yamato's flashback, got put into King's flashback.
True, you know, we have gotten a lot of Kaido, I'm not Kaido-centric flashbacks, but we have gotten a lot of like Kaido in the past dribbled here and there.
Exactly. So it's like now, I feel like that's been Oda's way of like building him up. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I told this to Evil a while back too, where it looks like Oda has been kind of doing a little reverse thing for Kaido's whole flashbacks, where it's like, you know, you see him during the Oden stuff, you see him during after they beat Oden, and in Yamato's stuff, and then you see him talking to King. Like, you know, we don't know when that King moment happened, but it implies it happened after they already beat Odin. And, you know, it just we're seeing all this stuff like in his like recent years, and we're slowly going even further back now to his roots, his origins. Yeah, and I'm just excited to see where that goes.
Constantly seeing like his face darken, right, and become more depressed, and him like becoming an alcoholic and shit. Like over time.
He's a whole other guy.
How long was Odin's flashback? Wasn't it like 10 chapters, 11 chapters? It was a long flashback.
I think it was about 15, maybe 16 chapters.
Dang, that's crazy. That's so long. It's so good though. It's like its own little story.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you kind of forget about Luffy and the gang for a little bit, and it's like a whole new manga.
Oh yeah, dude, absolutely. Before I got into One Piece, I saw those chapters. Somebody showed me some chapters of it, and I was like, what is going on? I thought like this was about like this kid who could be like Rubber and his crew. Like, who are all these people?
That's why I love like One Piece so much sometimes, is that so many mangas are scared to tell stories other than the story of the main character, right? And I feel like, you know, that's one of One Piece's strength is it has so many stories within its story that it makes it feel so big. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, exactly. I think like Dragon Ball Super, like the manga right now, I don't think there's been a single chapter in Dragon Ball Super where they don't like go away from Goku being in the chapter. Like, do you like Dragon Ball at all?
Oh yeah, bro, I love Dragon Ball. That's my childhood.
Yeah, me too.
But no, I understand. I understand completely what you mean. And usually when it's like steers away from Goku, it's, you know, I could be spitballing, I could be wrong. Don't come at me, Dragon Ball fans. But you kind of get that feeling where whatever's going on, if Goku's not involved, it's more so just to like delay things until Goku arrives.
Oh yeah. I mean, like I think Toriyama, like that was like a good plot device, like, you know, back in the day. But then it started becoming repetitive when it happened every single arc. You know what I mean?
Right.
Anyway, we totally went to Dragon Ball. I love I'm literally wearing Dragon Ball fucking sweatpants right now. Like they got the little they got the whole turtle hermit circles all over it. Anyway,
so just so y'all know, Sunlight is saying he's a Dragon Ball fan. Don't kill Sunlight.
Yeah. Come on, guys. So for my final question, what role do you think Zunisha's gonna play in Wano?
Yikes! That might be the toughest one. So with this chapter, right, we know Zunisha is just posted up like right outside of Wano, just sitting there waiting for Momonosuke to give the order.
Yeah.
So there is this idea that Zunisha is like a reference to, I believe it was like the Hindu god known as Ganesha. And I could be entirely wrong about how this is interpreted, but I saw somewhere along the lines of like one of the things about Ganesha, it's known as like the remover of obstacles. Something like that. Like, I don't know exactly how that means. I don't know if that's literal, like it gets rid of anything that tries to like stop you on your path. I don't know how that is meant to be interpreted, but like, if it is what I'm thinking it is, I'm assuming, you know, Zunisha shows up, he gets rid of the world government ships, similar to like how he did with Jack at the beginning of Zou. You know, something real quick with that. I'm wondering if Zunisha might in some way help, I don't know, restore it. like this is crazy, like tinfoil right here. Zunisha does something to help restore like the vegetation and life to Wano, because, you know, when we arrive there, we're told that like, the lands are dying, the water is poison.
That's a great idea.
You know, it was just like an idea I was wondering for a while, like, could Zunisha potentially like restore like the life to Wano in a sense? I don't know what that would cost. I don't know if that would cost Zunisha's life itself. But, you know, I'm wondering, could that possibly be something Zunisha does? Because we were told at the end of Zou that Zunisha's been like walking around for 1,000 years or so at this point, looking for a certain location. And, you know, logic would say at this point that location was Wano. But for what reason? And maybe like that time is now to bring Wano back to life, because since we arrived, all of Act 1 and Act 2 have been telling us how like pretty much every part of Wano outside of like the flower capital is just run to complete ruin. It's horrible living environments and all that stuff.
You're making me want to do a Zunisha video.
That problem.
Like that's a great. I love that idea. Zunisha bringing life back to Wano. I mean, we've already seen the whole reason why they're able to sustain an island on top of Zunisha is because Zunisha is able to vegetate herself or himself or their self. I don't know. Like his whole back, right, is like completely vegetated because they bathe themselves from the water, from the ocean, from their trunk all the time. So it's like ocean water isn't safe water to drink, but that is a possibility, and I never thought of that. That's such a genius idea. Awesome. Yeah, I do think like Zunisha, I feel like is there to be a plot device for helping the Straw Hats and the Alliance be protected from the Marines that are going to be there, who want to take down everything after the battle's over, right? They want to take Wano for themselves, and I think Zunisha is going to be a great deterrent to that. But I do think that Zunisha also has more roles to play in Wano besides that as well. Great idea. Final thoughts. Chapter rating. What did you think of the chapter? What would you give it out of 10?
The chapter, I walked away from it with like an 8 out of 10 impression, because it's one of those chapters. For me, it's like if a chapter just sits there and leaves me like dwelling on it with so many thoughts of how things can go, it's a fantastic chapter in my opinion. And like this was one of those chapters. Like you got the stuff with Momo in the very beginning, Zunisha, what's still gonna be his role, Yamato talking about the Momo leading the world to the dawn. Mm-hmm. You got everything in between with CP0, X Drake, Hiyori, and then the chapter ending off with like Luffy potentially might get awakening at this point.
So exciting to think about. But yeah, thank you again, Eden, so much for coming on. Sunlight Alliance, remember to subscribe to Eden's channel. Check out all the other boys in Decipher Pol. And yeah, thanks again, Edens. I appreciate you.
All right, no problem, bro. Thanks for having me. I'm always down to talk One Piece.